The book Chasing the Scream on addiction said, well, the opposite of addiction isn't sobriety, it's connection. And that's why recovery groups all know that, it's a community, it's a sponsor. We're wounded in relationship and we heal in relationship. It's not rocket science, but our culture has become much more disconnected than we ever were generations ago too. When I grew up, we knew everybody in our neighborhoods. We had no fences in our backyard, and if my parents didn't discipline me, the neighbor would if they saw me doing something. It was just a different time. We don't have that same time that we live in today. And so how to have natural, healthy relationships is a challenge. And I think it's become challenging in some ways because of the system, especially in our urban communities where we've incarcerated so many men, African American, Latino men disproportionately. Though the crime levels may not be much different, the arrest and incarceration levels are much different. And so some cities, Baltimore, Detroit, upwards of close to 50% of African American or Latino men between 18 and 28 are on probation, in prison, or on parole. That destroys communities.
Can you say that statistic one more time?
That in many urban communities, disproportionately, they are arrested and confined. Though rates of crime may not be enormously different, mm-hmm. by being black or brown, your chance of being arrested for that same crime and given longer sentences are 17 times more than if you're white. So we know that when a community has more than 2% of its population incarcerated, it starts to become more dangerous. Now, when you have some communities where half the men are either in prison on probation or awaiting trial, this really disrupts a community. And so the solutions are individual, help this person, but they also require a systemic reordering, institutional racism. Where we have our offices in Worcester, we're in a particular area called Maine South. And I would say the main industry in our community is drug addiction. Mm-hmm. We've got, we take people into rehabs, detoxes for 3 to 5 days, put them into a program at the most now 2 weeks. Used to be 3-month programs, then they were 21 days, now they're 2 weeks. And so then they get out back on the street at about 19 or 20 days sober, clean. We know that at 21 days sober, your serotonin levels bottom out at your worst time. Right when you're going into, on the same community, a sober house. Now, all these things are funded, through public dollars generally, mm-hmm. especially for people who are on the streets. You're at your most vulnerable time. Now, nobody's up there saying, let's keep addiction going, but every system is designed to get the result it gets. In prisons, when there's an 80% return rate, I tell young guys in prison all the time, listen, as long as you keep coming back, you're worth a lot of money. The U.S. government says that it costs about $2.1 million when somebody drops out of school at age 16 and enters a lifetime of crime. That's a lot of money that people are making off of one person who stays in crime. And if you got an 80% return rate, you're a businessman. That's a good business. If you can get 80% return, and when kids can start to see that, like, wow, I don't want to be part of this formula. Mm-hmm. And you know what keeps them there? I'll say a lot of times, the advice, quit doing drugs, quit using, quit getting kicked out of school, quit being in the gang. That's almost a sure formula to keep you coming back.